Just imagine for a second everything your body's taking in right now. The light, the sounds, maybe the feeling of, where you're sitting, your thoughts, every little move you make. It's just constant information. How do we possibly make sense of it all? How do our bodies react? Often without us even, well, thinking about it. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the system that makes all that happen, the nervous system. We're using biology from majors to second as our guide to really get into its basic structure, our goal, to help you clearly see the difference between the central and peripheral nervous systems, know their parts, and just grasp how they run the show, basically. Think of it as your shortcut to understanding this amazing system.
Absolutely. And it's not just about listing parts, is it? It's about seeing the incredible efficiency, how the work is divided up so cleverly, allowing everything to run so smoothly. We're looking for those aha moments hidden in what seems like complex biology.
Okay, let's get into it then. The nervous system isn't just one big thing. It really has three main jobs it's constantly doing. We're talking about sensory input, then integrating that data, and finally, motor output. Those three.
Exactly. That sequence is fundamental. So first up is sensory input. That's basically your body gathering information, data from everywhere, inside and out. It uses neurons, glia cells, synapses, all these specialized structures. Think of nerve cells conducting impulses, like coded messages from sensory receptors, your skin, tongue, eyes, whatever, up to the brain and spinal cord. That's the data collection phase. Then comes integration of data. And this is really key. The source material makes a point of this. This processing happens only in the brain. It's not just passing messages along. The brain interprets it, compares it, makes decisions. It's the command center, figuring out what all that incoming information actually means. And finally, motor output. So after the brain processes everything, it decides on a response. It sends out commands. Impulses travel back down from the brain and the spinal cord to your muscles and glands, the effectors. This is the action part. Your body doing something based on the processed info.
Right. So like the classic example, you touch a hot stove. Yeah. That instant, ouch, hot feeling, that sensory input shooting up those nerves super fast. Your brain integrates that in a split second. Danger, hot, decides what to do. And then boom, the signal goes back down, motor output, telling your hand muscles to pull away. Almost before you even think about it, it's this incredibly fast loop, right?
Precisely. Keeps us safe.
Okay, so for this whole system to work, it needs its basic building blocks, the cells. And there are two main stars, neurons and glia cells. They're crucial.
Yes, and they have very distinct jobs, though they work together closely. Neurons are the excitable ones, the communicators. They transmit signals rapidly. They can either excite the next neuron or inhibit it. That's how they pass information. They form these incredibly complex networks throughout the body, connecting at points called synapses. That's where the signal jumps from one neuron to the next. They come in different shapes and sizes, but communication is their game. Then you have the glia cells. You find them all through the nervous system tissues. But crucially, they aren't excitable like neurons. They don't carry those main electrical signals. Instead, they're the support crew. Absolutely vital. They do things like myelination, insulating nerve fibers so signals travel faster. They also manage the chemical environment around neurons, keeping the ionic balance right, maintaining the fluid. And, it's interesting. For a long time, people thought glia were just sort of passive scaffolding.
Just holding things together.
Right, but now research is showing they're much more active. They seem to influence how synapses form, maybe even play roles in learning, memory, mood. So they're not just unsung heroes, they're like active partners with the neurons. It's a really dynamic picture emerging.
Wow. Okay. So neurons are the messengers carrying the signals, but the glia are essential for everything to work properly, speeding things up, keeping the environment right, and maybe even shaping the conversation. Without them, the whole thing falls apart.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, this is where it gets really interesting organizationally. This huge system is split into two main divisions, the central nervous system, the CNS, and the peripheral nervous system, the PNS. So what's the main difference? What are their core jobs?
It makes a lot of sense when you break it down. The central nervous system, CNS, central. It's your brain and your spinal cord. This is the main control center, integration, decision-making, processing, that all happens here. It has centers for sensory stuff, motor commands, everything. And within the CNS, you can sort of think about lower centers of spinal cord and brainstem, handling more basic things like reflexes, breathing. And then the higher centers, like the cortex in the brain, for complex thought, consciousness, voluntary actions. This is the command HQ. Then spreading out from that HQ, you've got the peripheral nervous system, PNS. This is the massive network of nerves, spinal nerves, cranial nerves connecting CNS to literally everything else in your body. The PNS has all the sensory receptors picking up changes inside and outside you, and it sends that information to the CNS using afferent sensory nerves. Think A for arriving at the CNS. And when the CNS sends commands out, it uses efferent motor nerves. Think E for exiting the CNS. So if the CNS is the boss, the PNS is the network collecting intel and delivering orders.
Okay, I can picture that. CNS is the brain and spinal cord, the core processor, the decision hub. And the PNS is like all the wires and sensors reaching out everywhere, bringing info in via those afferent nerves and carrying instructions out via the efferent nerves. Makes sense. A clear division of labor.
Exactly.
So we know the PNS is the network, but how does it manage different types of actions? Because, blinking is different from deciding to walk across the room. This leads us to the PNS's own subdivisions, right? The autonomic and the somatic nervous systems.
Right, and this distinction explains so much. The autonomic nervous system handles the involuntary stuff. All the things your body just does without you consciously controlling it. It regulates your internal organs, heart, stomach, intestines, controls blood vessels, smooth muscle, cardiac muscle. So your heart beating right now, digesting food, your pupils adjusting to light, blood pressure changing slightly. That's all the autonomic system working tirelessly, automatically in the background. Then the flip side is the somatic nervous system. This governs voluntary control. This is you deciding to do things. It connects to your skin, bones, joints, and importantly, your skeletal muscles, the ones you move consciously. So, deciding to raise your hand, kick something, type, wiggle your toes, those are deliberate actions directed by your somatic system. It lets you interact with the world intentionally.
Okay. So, involuntary versus voluntary. Conscious choice versus automatic function. Heartbeat, digestion that's autonomic, running itself. Deciding to stand up, walk, talk that's somatic, under your direct command. It's like your body's running these two parallel operating systems all the time. One you manage and one that just runs.
Precisely. It's a very effective setup.
So we've got these divisions, CNS, PNS, and within PNS, autonomic and somatic. But they can't be totally separate islands, can they? How do they actually work together? It must be this constant communication, right, to make us function as a whole person.
Oh, absolutely. Interconnected is the key word.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just next to each other, they're woven together. Nerves from the PNS physically enter the CNS, and nerves to the CNS extend out to become part of the PNS. There's no hard wall. It's one integrated system with different parts. They're in constant dialogue. Think about that reflex arc again, touching something sharp.
Yeah, the hot stove thing.
Right. Sensory nerves in your PNS detect the pain, zip that signal to the spinal cord part of the CNS. And the spinal cord can immediately fire back a motor command through your PNS nerves to pull your hand away. That reaction happens before your brain even fully processes the ouch. It's an integrated, super fast response using both systems seamlessly.
That's a perfect example. PNS brings the alarm signal in, CNS, spinal cord, makes a quick decision, PNS carries the order out, all coordinated. It's like a shortcut for emergencies.
Exactly. And it's not just reflexes. Think about feeling stressed. Your autonomic system, PNS, might ramp up heart races, breathing quickens, fight or flight, but then you might consciously decide using your somatic system, PNS influencing CNS thought, to take deep breaths. That conscious action sends signals back through the CNS that can then influence and calm down the autonomic response. So there's this constant back and forth influence. It's a dynamic conversation between all the parts.
I like the dynamic conversation, not just signals going one way. So the CNS is the big processing center, making decisions. But the PNS is constantly feeding it information, carrying out its orders, and even influencing the CNS through feedback. It's like this intricate web, constantly adjusting and responding.
That's a great way to put it, an information ecosystem.
Okay, that brings us towards the end of our deep dive on the nervous system. We've covered those three key jobs: sensory input, integrating the data, and motor output, the flow of information and action. We talked about the cells, the neurons carrying the signals, and those vital active glia supporting them.
And the big divisions.
Sure.
The CNS, brain and spinal cord, the control hub with its lower and higher centers, and the PNS, that huge network connecting everything, with its afferent nerves bringing info in and efferent nerves taking commands out. And within the PNS, that split between the autonomic for involuntary actions and the somatic for voluntary control. Understanding these pieces, and especially how they connect and talk to each other, it really gives you an appreciation for just how complex and efficient our bodies are. It's all happening constantly, behind the curtain, making millions of tiny adjustments every second.
It really is mind-boggling when you stop and think about it, just taking it apart like this. Did you ever have a moment, maybe when you were first learning this, where one detail just clicked and made you go, wow?
Oh, definitely. For me, I think it was really grasping the speed of something like that reflex arc.
Yeah.
The idea that your body can react protectively faster than your conscious awareness. It just highlights this incredible built-in intelligence and layers of control that operate way below our conscious radar. It makes you realize how much is automated for our survival and well-being.
That's a fantastic point, a great thought to leave you, our listener, with. So next time you consciously decide to, say, wiggle your finger, or maybe just notice your heart beating steadily without any effort on your part, just take a moment. Think about the sheer scale of activity going on inside you. Billions of neurons firing, glinea working, signals racing back and forth between the CNS and PNS, all that coordinated complexity. What other incredible processes are running right now, keeping you going, that maybe you just take for granted? Something to think about until our next deep dive.